The Real Monica Adams Show is brought to you by Exist Stretch. Stop by for your free consultation and 30-minute introductory stretch today.
Welcome into the Exist Stretch Studios and welcome into the Real Monica Adams Show. Thrilled to have you along with us. And by the way, I've been talking to a lot of people over the weekend that have said, all right, I'm a believer now. I saw the reel you put together. And yes, I finally talked to Jim into getting in. If you haven't seen that yet, you need to. I was talking about taking care of our first responders because those heroes are always taking care of us. We're going to talk to a physician today. I put them on the front lines. My husband, a police officer, the firefighters, etc. Multiple levels. Please, as we get ready to get into Father's Day, think about those heroes. First stretch, absolutely free. Come on, you can't beat that. And then you'll become a believer, just as Jim did, taking care of your body. So if you haven't been in yet, Exist Stretch brought to you. Our studios, again, are provided by Exist Stretch, one in Arnold, one in St. Louis Hills. Check them out, existstretch.com, and then on social media at Exist Stretch. And as I mentioned, Father's Day right around the corner, and Trisha just told us last Wednesday that they will be having another special. So welcome into the show. We have news, weather, and Beckett told us last week that it was going to get oppressively hot as we get near the end of the week. So we're going to check in with Beckett in just a second. News you can use. And then today on this Medical Monday, you may have seen it in the news last week, we're going to talk about a breakthrough that is really changing the field from pancreatic cancer from a survival rate standpoint. We've got a physician and we have a past guest that has been on with us who lost her husband to pancreatic cancer just a few years ago. We'll see what she thinks about this breakthrough. So let's kick things off with a segment we call What the Weather.
Good evening and welcome into this new More Weather Forecast video. My name is Beck Moore.
And our weather segment brought to you by our friends over at Fenton Family Dentistry. In fact, Abraham and his father will be in tomorrow. We're going to talk faith on a Testament Tuesday. If you're looking for a new dentist, and if you don't have a dentist that has the most caring staff and even a dog that is there, yes, I said a dog, on a regular basis, then you're missing out. I just talked with a lady last week in Wildwood, and she's like, hey, I need a new dentist. And I said, well, I've got one for you. Dr. Jessica and Abraham and the team at Fenton Family Dentistry will take care of you. There he is, Augie. Augie will take care of you as well. And I mentioned to a lady that was an interior designer, and she's like, I get fearful when I go to the dentist. He will take care of you. He knows right away. He was born to be a service dog. If you didn't hear his story, it's an incredible story. Check out my YouTube channel so you can see those past interviews and see how he is really changing people's lives. Dr. Jessica and the team at Fenton Family Dentistry. Check them out or call them at 636-326-7633. They're located on Old Miser Mill Road in Fenton, so you can have that gorgeous smile. All right, we're thrilled that they're bringing our gorgeous Beckett Moore to the team today, and he's in a different area, by the way. You're in your cottage, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm at my cottage in Illinois. I was planning on having my graphics here behind me, but we had some technical issues, so hopefully next time.
You gotta love technology, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes, next time. All right. Well, I hope you're having a good start to your time off from school. I saw you had some really cool things you did over the weekend. Tell us about the air show. That was amazing, right?
Yeah, so we went to the air show yesterday. It was about 4 hours, and there was a lot of cool things. There were some Canadian planes that I think were basically the Canadian version of the Blue Angels, and those were really cool. And of course, the finale was the Blue Angels, and multiple times they came right over our head, and you could see the pilots, you could see the underbelly of the plane, and it was very cool. And they always put on an amazing show.
Yeah, there's a video, by the way, that we're taking a look
Yeah.
at this morning. I have not had a chance to get out there in a while, but I did drive through Chesterfield and I saw all the traffic. I was like, good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they had a good weekend for it.
Yes, the weather held up pretty nice.
All right, well, we're talking weather today, by the way, with our aspiring meteorologist, Beckett Moore. And while it was great for the air show, you told us last week that it was going to get really gross and sticky and hot. So I'm going to let you take it away and then everybody listen to this because we haven't even hit summer yet, but this is pretty dangerous temperatures.
Yes, so if we look at today's forecast, we're likely going to get to around 82 degrees for our high today. expecting some scattered storms and showers really throughout the day. So these are going to be hit or miss storms, but likely it is going to rain where you are today. It's just going to depend what time of the day, as we do have those scattered areas of rain throughout the area, especially as we head into this afternoon. Then looking at the 7-day, again, like Monica mentioned, we are expecting some very hot days, mainly from tomorrow through Thursday. Although temperatures have backed down a bit, we are still expecting heat indexes, which is that feels like temperature, what it's really going to feel like outside, to be above 100. So that is dangerous heat. You definitely want to stay hydrated, stay indoors, and if you have to be outside, stay in shade and don't be outside for long periods of time. As we head towards Thursday, we do have a 50% chance of some rain, but still mostly sunny. And then heading into the weekend, though, we continue to see some rain chances by Saturday and Sunday, with temperatures in the 80s.
Well, I'm glad to see Thursday's temperature not looking like you had last week, 97.
Yes, I'm glad to see that down too.
All right. Well, my friend, thank you so much. And again, we always say we can't appreciate Beckett enough. He's been with us for 2 years now, which just seems so crazy to me. And here he is off school, and he's getting up early to give you the weather. So that is dedication. Beckett, thank you. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
You're welcome. Sounds good.
All right, folks, Beckett Moore again giving us the weather, and then we get into some news you can use. We're going to start off with firefighters. I just talked about our first responder, and can you imagine in this heat putting on the uniforms that they have? 5 firefighters have been injured in a major furniture store fire, not here locally. This is in North Carolina. It was reported in the Furniture Plus warehouse in Jacksonville. It spread to the store itself. Smoke was pouring out of the front of the building. Part of the roof collapsed in that blaze, and 5 firefighters were injured, according to a city spokesperson. All but one had been treated and released by the next evening. Furniture Plus's website that I looked at said it has been family owned since 1978. The store is 30,000 square feet. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Now, I want you to listen to this. I know we're in warmer temperatures and you might not be using space heaters, but some people still do. In fact, my mom was just saying, "Ooh, well, when you come out of the shower, you should have a space heater right away, Monica, because it's warmer in here." And I was like, well, it's going to be dangerous, though, if it's one of these. These were sold at Kohl's, Amazon, Bed Bath & Beyond, recalled now after reports of fire. So look at the screen here. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the recall is for Vornado small room tower heaters, sold online, Amazon, as well as their website, Vornado's website. Sold also at Kohl's, Ace Hardware, Bed Bath & Beyond. They were sold from August of 13 through May of this year. You paid about $40 to $50 for those. They're about 12 inches tall. The model number is Type SRTH, printed on the bottom of it. So far, there have been more than 30 reports of overheating, including 8 reports of fires. If you own one of those heaters, stop using it and visit Vornado's website for instructions on how you will get a refund. All right, yet another recall, folks. This time it has to do with something that you most likely have in your cabinets: baby wipes, over the risk of life-threatening bacterial infections. Target is recalling these. They were sold nationwide because they could be contaminated. This is why the recall is happening, with bacteria that can cause serious and life-threatening infections in your young kiddos. Target voluntarily recalling its Up and Up fragrance-free and Up and Up fresh cucumber-scented baby wipes after receiving complaints about the wipes getting discolored. They were tested by the U.S. FDA and later revealed the presence of bacteria that may result in serious and life-threatening infections in your babies. Target says it has received complaints of eye and skin irritation already, as well as some infections associated with the use of the wipes. You can call Target Guest Relations if you want to know more information about this. The cucumber-scented wipes were sold in 72-count pouches, a bundle of 3 72-count pouches, and 100-count pouches packaged in 800-count boxes. They have an expiration date between June 29th of 28 through June 30th of 28. Again, stop using those immediately. All right, we're going to get into some sports news, and we'll start off with one of our favorites, Simone Biles, the GOAT, right? Well, now she's saying she's lucky to be alive. This is really, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but she said almost dying wasn't on my bingo card after she suffered a health scare. Simone shared on Instagram a story with a photo of her arm covered in medical wristbands, and on the photo she wrote a message that said, almost dying wasn't on my bingo card earlier this week. This was one of, if not the scariest experiences of my life, she continued to say. She's 29. She said she will explain sooner or later and has been in bed resting. In another photo posted to her Instagram story, she shared an image from bed with her dogs and a screenshot of her heart rate at 126 beats per minute. And she said, "I'll be right here." Biles, who of course won 41 world championship and Olympic medals, is considered one of the greatest athletes of all time. She has not said, by the way, whether she will compete at the 2028 LA Olympics. But as of right now, we're scratching our heads to see what in the heck happened to her. So as we get more information, I will, of course, pass that along to you. All right, we had talked about the Kentucky Derby just a few weeks ago. Were you watching horse racing over the weekend? As we continue this, Golden Tempo wins the 158th running of the Belmont Stakes after winning the Kentucky Derby. This is what you want, right? You want to see this kind of story continue. So Golden Tempo showed exactly why he's a great closer, and his stretch run at the Belmont Stakes on Saturday delivered more history for that trainer. Ridden by the jockey, Jose Ortiz, from 12 lengths off the lead, Golden Tempo surged from the back of the pack to win the 158th rendition of the race. Congratulations to Golden Tempo. And let's say congratulations to our St. Louis Cardinals. I like when I get a chance to actually tell you that we won, and we did. The final score was 5-3. And then we wrap things up with your National Day of calendar, and I love this one. Give a call or text or email or get in person with your best friends today, because today is National Best Friends Day. It is also National Upsy Daisy Day, and then National Name Your Poison Day. That's how we do it for you in the first, normally 15 minutes, and this one we got through quicker, of the show. If you're new to the show, we do news you can use. Again, no negativity. I was involved in the news for long enough. We want things that we know you need to know about, and then things that you can use as you talk to your family and friends. Today, we definitely have something that we know you can use. I mean, you may have seen this story over the last week, and as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted to bring it on our show. So today, on our Medical Monday, we're going to talk about pancreatic cancer. Let me give you a little background on my guest. Dr. Gregg Fox, a molecular cell biologist and internal medicine physician, currently completing the final phase of his training in oncology as part of the Oliver Langenberg Physician Scientist training program at Washington University School of Medicine, a postdoctoral scholar in the lab of Dr. Kian Lim, a WashU professor who has dedicated his research efforts to expediting successful translation of basic science discoveries in pancreatic cancer into the hands of patients, with work that has led directly to the opening of multiple clinical trials in GI malignancies. And his work in the lab focuses on utilizing state-of-the-art approaches to better understand the development of therapy resistance in pancreatic cancer, as well as to identify combination therapy strategies that turn these adaptations into exploitable vulnerabilities. And beyond a long-standing academic interest in cancer resistance development, he was moved to focus on pancreatic cancer specifically after his mother's diagnosis with and untimely passing from metastatic pancreatic cancer during his first year of oncology fellowship. You can feel he was called to this, but unfortunately saw the demise of his mother and now is looking for what we are seeing today, right? These breakthroughs. He's eager to raise awareness regarding the significant strides currently being made in pancreatic cancer treatment, as well as the substantial work that remains to be done before we can say that a cure is at last in reach. And joining him will be Kira Anderson, a past guest of ours. She's a health and wellness coach, entrepreneur, passionate pancreatic cancer advocate. She also has her own podcast called Yes We Can. She has dedicated herself to raising awareness and funding critical research to improve outcomes for patients and families facing this devastating disease. You'll remember when she was on our show, she lost her husband Kyle to pancreatic cancer in 2023. Here's the amazing thing. Through her advocacy efforts, Kira's helped raise more than $2 million, folks, for pancreatic cancer research. She recently launched a new campaign, and this is where you're going to be able to come on board and help. She has a goal of raising an additional $1 million to support the groundbreaking work of Dr. Lim and his team. Her mission, fueled by the belief that more effective treatments and ultimately a cure is around the corner. And today we're going to talk with both of them about something that we just saw in the news last week. And this is a pill that is changing survival rates. We're going to talk about all of that today on a Medical Monday, so don't go anywhere.
Don't miss a hot tub and swim spa blowout sale this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the St. Charles Convention Center in the North Hall. Choose from over 25 American-made units on display. See hot tubs, swim spas, and cold tubs all ready for immediate delivery. Save up to 50% on MSRP. Financing is available. For more info, call 1-800-SPA-SALE. That's 1-800-SPA-SALE.
And welcome back on this Medical Monday. Thrilled to have you along on the Real Monica Adams Show. Right now, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, Rumble, and Instagram. So thank you for whatever platform you're on. Be sure to share these shows. And if you have a guest you would like for me to have on a future Medical Monday, send me an email at info@therealmonicaadams.com. Well, I just gave you background on my guests. Let's bring them both on. Dr. Fox and Kira, thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Fox, we reached out, and Kira, thank you, by the way, for connecting us. We're talking about the news from just this past week, the most promising news that we've seen in a long time for pancreatic cancer. Can you tell us about the name of this pill, first of all, and how you rank this with regards to other breakthroughs that we've seen? Because I was talking to family members just yesterday, and they said, "Oh, is it a cure?" And I said, "Well, it's a change of survival rates." And they're like, "Oh, it's not a cure." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, but listen to this because this is what it leads to." So tell us first about this and how excited you are, obviously, in the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the pill is Daraxonrasib. As with a lot of these cancer-related drugs, a little bit of a mouthful. The reason it's called that is because it's a targeted pill against a specific gene that drives the vast, vast, vast majority of pancreatic cancer growth. Some, 90% or above of human pancreatic cancer tumors have a mutation in KRAS. So Daraxonrasib is why that RAS is there. With respect to what this represents, kind of on the rank ordered list of previous breakthroughs in pancreatic cancer, I would say pretty easily it is the most significant trial I think that's ever been conducted in pancreatic cancer. To your point, it's not a cure, unfortunately. This is a very aggressive, difficult to treat disease, and we still have a lot of work to do. But to kind of put it in perspective, targeted therapy or therapies that are kind of pinpoint directed at specific pancreatic cancer specific alterations is something that's been a little bit pie in the sky for a long time.
Mhm.
People have been trying to target KRAS specifically for something like 4 decades, essentially since it was discovered, with very little success up until this and kind of a related class of medications. And beyond that, the genetic alterations that you see in pancreatic cancer, they none of the other ones are kind of high enough penetrance that targeting any one of them would be particularly useful. There are a lot of like mutations that you see in 1 to 2% of pancreatic cancers, and that represents a number of the recurrent alterations that you see. So KRAS really was kind of the golden goose, so to speak.
Mhm.
But to give you a sense as to kind of the sort of survival benefit that we're seeing and kind of how it compares. So, in the first line setting, so in patients with pancreatic cancer that spread who are being given their first treatment, they've never received anything before. Our only option still, though this also might be changing within the next couple of years as this medication moves into the first line setting. But the first line setting is combinations of kind of traditional chemotherapies, either a regimen that uses two or a regimen that uses three different therapies. In those patients receiving kind of the best chemotherapy combinations that we have available, the median overall survival for those patients is probably somewhere between 11 to 12 months. Um, in this trial of Daraxonrasib, which again is the second line setting, so these patients have already received kind of the best of the best.
Mhm.
This is what we give you first, chemotherapy. The patients who received Daraxonrasib had a median overall survival of 13.7 months. this is so a better overall survival in the second line setting after you've already selected for the part of their cancer that was resistant to chemotherapy. They're doing better than patients do in the first line setting. And when you actually compare how these patients do to patients who are getting chemotherapy in the second line setting, the rate at which their tumor progresses and their overall survival were both doubled. So
Right?
it's an extremely meaningful advance. And I think too, just to kind of close out the response, I think it is also very meaningful, I think, from the perspective of GI oncologists who treat pancreatic cancer. For the longest time, um, all we have had to meaningfully offer is chemotherapy,
Mm-hmm.
um, particularly as kind of you march through the lines of therapy. Chemotherapy becomes an increasingly difficult prospect as cancer advances and patients become more debilitated from burden of disease or side effects of chemotherapy. And so it there you almost inevitably arrive at a point where the chemotherapy that we would potentially have to offer would likely do more harm than good. And so we're often faced with this kind of very difficult discussion about, we have things that we could give to treat you, but we think that it would actually, meaningfully shorten your overall quality of life. Um, in this case, this Daraxonrasib does have some side effects. In this trial, a large majority of patients got kind of an acne-like rash that required some corticosteroids and an oral antibiotic. And a fair number of patients also got some mouth sores that required some steroid rinses daily. But compared to chemotherapy, I would say better tolerated overall, and also, just an oral pill taken once daily, not these infusions that you're sitting in an infusion clinic for a half day every 2 weeks or so. So a pretty meaningful advance in quality of life also. And importantly, I think what we'll probably see in real life practice is that we'll be able to give this medication to patients who might not have been able to tolerate chemotherapy. That's my hope, at least. And so we'll be able to meaningfully expand the number of patients with later line pancreatic cancer who we can still meaningfully offer a treatment that we think would extend their quality of life. So I think it's a really meaningful advance that everyone's pretty excited about.
Absolutely. Again, if you're just tuning in on a Medical Monday, Dr. Gregg Fox, and we're talking about this breakthrough, again, doubling the opportunity for your loved one to be around with you longer. And this, folks, is what we see when these breakthroughs happen, to then eventually be able to say one day, I swear it's going to happen, that we will say there is a cure. And we need people like Dr. Gregg Fox in the lab with Dr. Lim. And Kira Anderson knows very well Dr. Lim and this team. You have been working hand in hand with them. Again, yes, she is one of the people that says they lost a loved one to pancreatic cancer, but here she is a 3-year window later after losing her husband Kyle to say, wow, here we are. These are breakthroughs. What does this mean to you as a wife of someone who had pancreatic cancer?
It's truly, I mean, as Dr. Fox was saying, the prognosis for pancreatic cancer patients is not good. Oftentimes it's found stage 4. And so what's interesting is my husband had a treatment that worked, but like Dr. Fox said, chemotherapy really did, it broke him down. So at the end of the day, he wasn't able to handle the number of amounts of chemo. He had 32 rounds of chemo. So if he were given this drug, who knows if he would still be here, but this is a huge breakthrough, as Dr. Fox said, because chemotherapy is really detrimental to the body. Yes, it kills cancer, but it kills all sorts of other things too. And so this is huge. It is exciting. It is, like Dr. Fox said, it's going to, the quality of life for patients with stage 4 pancreatic cancer is going to be so much better. And the amount of time we spend in those chemo lab, getting chemo will drastically, be reduced. And so it's awesome. It really is.
Well, and Kira took it upon herself when she said, no, I'm going to dig and dig and dig and find whatever I can for my husband while he's going through this. And so she made it a point to say, I am going to look at research that can be out there, and I'm going to look at trials that are out there. And she ended up getting her husband on a trial of one. He was the very first person ever to have what he had going through a few years back before he had passed, and it did prolong his life. She saw it firsthand. So when you ask sometimes, does it really help? Yes, she was able to have her loved one around longer. And then this is more of the type of funding that you are wanting to do so we can advance these type of pills and treatments to be around. You've already raised, Kira, $2 million, but now you are looking for another million. And I last look, I think you're over 200,000. Is that right?
That is right. And there's actually a $50,000 commitment that hasn't come through yet. So, yes.
Fantastic.
We're
And
getting
so
there.
this is the QR code for people to scan in order to donate?
Yes, it is. Thank you for putting that up there.
Of course, absolutely. So again, Dr. Fox and Kira just said it, and we've all unfortunately been touched by someone that, and right now you might be going through it yourself, by someone who has a form of cancer. And we're just looking for, today I woke up, I always pick a word of the day, and my word today naturally just came to me of hope, right? Hope that we are turning the corner on this and many other cancers. But yes, whenever anybody hears that word, Dr. Fox, pancreatic, they all of a sudden in their minds go to, that's a death sentence. You've
Yep.
heard it over and over again, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, as kind of on the certainly on the spectrum of solid tumors, I would say that pancreatic cancer is a very frustrating combination of aggressive, spreads early, and difficult to treat. So a kind of a three hit, unfortunately. And the advance that we see with Daraxonrasib again, I think, is just being able to meaningfully offer a larger percentage of patients more time. Again, this is highly unlikely to represent a meaningful cure for all, but maybe, all of these trials are conducted on the population level, right?
Right.
So it's always very difficult for us to say for each individual patient, exactly what their response will be.
Sure.
If you look at you know, dig into the data from this trial, you can see that in almost all cases, no one had what we would call a complete response, where you see, the tumor absolutely regress and there's no visible tumor on any scans to be seen. What you tend to see is that the vast majority of patients who receive this drug have either a partial response or stable disease, where you kind of essentially put the tumor to sleep and keep it there for a prolonged period of time. Um, Obviously, that's not the end goal that we're searching for, but it does represent, a very significant change in the positive direction, certainly
Absolutely.
from where we've been. Again, to put things in a little bit of perspective, the last meaningful advance that we had in first line pancreatic cancer treatment was in 2011.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
um, and
15 years
and
later.
certainly no later line therapeutic trials that have come out since then have conferred anywhere near the survival advantage that daraxonrasib does.
Again, and I don't know if you all saw this, but back June 4th is when we first saw this moving nationally. And again, headlines all over the place. Scientists finally crack an undruggable pancreatic cancer target, nearly double survival. So we're talking for decades now. Pancreatic cancer has been one of the most lethal cancers, few effective treatment options. And so this new drug, Daraxonrasib, targeting the KRAS mutation that fuels most pancreatic tumors, something that many scientists once thought it couldn't be done. So this is a major clinical trial. The treatment, again, nearly doubling survival rates for patients with advanced disease and reduce the risk of death by 60%. So this is a big deal. Folks, there's a reason why we're live. And then I know a lot of you are running around doing things with your family and kids. If you have a question, you have a comment to make, and I have a couple coming in right now, this is your time. Feel free to do so. Ask Dr. Fox any questions, ask Kira any questions, or if you watch later, feel free to drop in a hashtag replay. We'll make sure that these are also passed along along to Dr. Fox. So Jeff wrote on YouTube and said, I am currently on this drug about 3 weeks in. I already have seen energy and appetite increase, diagnosed about a month and a half ago. This has been my first therapy, no chemotherapy yet. There we go. So, I mean, again, we're hearing firsthand from Jeff. Jeff, what other comments would you like to pass along? Because again, when you are diagnosed with that, you tell us what your mind first goes through. Then you see this, and you have, I believe the word we're using of the day, you have hope. Linda said, would this also help someone whose stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Dr. Fox, has already spread to his liver, or is it just for the pancreatic cancer?
Yeah, great question, Linda. So I think this is a relatively common misconception that I think just comes down to the way that we talk about cancer that spread. So at least in the oncology world, the thing that matters most for how we treat a cancer is where the cancer started. Kind of the organ of origin is kind of the way that we phrase it. So if the cancer started in the pancreas and it's gone to the liver, it's still pancreatic cancer. It's just pancreatic cancer that spread. So absolutely, the Daraxonrasib is still an appropriate therapy in that case because the pancreatic cancer in the liver is overwhelmingly likely to have the exact same kind of genetic architecture that the original tumor did.
Folks, again, as I mentioned, Kira Anderson, who is also with us along with Dr. Fox, she lost her husband, Kyle, a few years back. One of the things, and I'll ask both of you, and this is the thing that I've heard from anyone in the years that I've been doing news, when I have covered stories that had to do with pancreatic cancer, it was all about there were no signs until it was at a heightened stage. You know, then there's the possibility of jaundice or abdominal pain. What did you see with Kyle, Kira?
Oh yeah, he had so what originally happened was his bowel movements became irregular, and he was having severe stomach pain and even some back pain. So digestive issues as well, and we just chalked it up to maybe he all of a sudden was having a reaction to dairy or gluten or stress. Maybe he had a high stress job, and so actually the whole first year of my son's life, he had severe stomach pain, and we tried everything. I mean, you should have seen our medicine cabinet. It was full of I mean, all sorts of things, and so yeah, oftentimes it's not caught until it's gone to another organ, as Dr. Fox said. And I wanted to mention too, it's also very painful. It is a painful cancer. So my husband was in extreme pain most of the time, and so and also it is affecting patients younger and younger. My husband was only 47 years of age. Our kids were only 4, 2, and 11 months, and so he lived 17 months only because he got that experimental treatment, and it did actually eradicate his cancer. He was no evidence of disease after having it for 8 or 9 months. Unfortunately, because of all the chemo, he was not able to continue treatment because of how sick he got. So, so yeah, there were a couple things I wanted to mention along those lines, but we did not know what it was for, 8 or 9 months. He was having some pain and irregular bowel movements and such.
And that's the hardest thing, obviously, folks. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're going to take a break here in just a second. Dr. Gregg Fox, Kira Anderson, our guest, and Barbara, you are so welcome. She said, very promising. Thank you for passing this news along to the audience. Of course. I mean, as soon as it came across, I was like, we have to get this on, and I want to get it on ASAP. Jenny said, it seems like there's been an uptick in diagnosis cases. This will help at least extend lives. If the KRAS mutation is positive for, say, breast and or colon cancer, are they more susceptible to pancreatic cancer? That's her question for Dr. Fox.
Yeah, so good question. So pancreatic cancer is by far the most kind of KRAS addicted solid tumor that we know of. KRAS mutations do occur at lower frequencies in some other solid tumors, most commonly colon cancers, some biliary tract cancers, so like the gallbladder and the bile duct system, as well as lung cancers. There are some mutation-specific KRAS targeted therapies that have been employed in colon cancer and lung cancer, and there are some active trials looking at Daraxonrasib and other KRAS inhibitors that work in a similar fashion in those other diseases. So it's a very actively moving space where there's going to be a lot of change even over the next couple of years, I would say.
Jenny said that her late sister-in-law was KRAS positive, had 2 primary breast and colon with 7 metastatic cancer sites. She
Mm,
was able to live 10 years and 3 months before it took her.
mm.
Rose said, I know no one knows what causes certain cancers, but is there any correlation with this disease in job careers or certain areas that they found in the research?
Um, so at least with pancreatic cancer, pardon me, there is not too much of an association with career or environmental exposures. In general, a lot of the same risk, kind of general risk factors for cancer, smoking, alcohol use, very significant obesity, also apply to pancreatic cancer. Other kind of risk factors that we think of are a significant family history of
Okay.
pancreatic cancers. There are certain kind of heritable cancer predisposing mutations for which pancreatic cancer is one of the cancers that you have kind of an increased risk of. And then also one more specific risk factor that we don't I think maybe a lot of lay people don't think about a lot is something called chronic pancreatitis. So you can get inflammation of the pancreas, and it's called acute pancreatitis. For some people, it can happen with gallstones that pass into the pancreas and prevent the pancreas from kind of pushing out all of those nice digestive enzymes that help you digest fats. You can also, for people who drink alcohol to excess, you can actually directly cause injury to the pancreas that results in acute pancreatitis. And there are some other kind of more esoteric causes. But for people who develop recurrent instances of pancreatitis where that inflammation becomes chronic, that's kind of one of actually the most significant behavioral or disease-related risk factors for pancreatic cancer.
Well, and you just answered. I was going to ask you about family history. But let's take a
Mhm.
break. Let's come back to that because if someone does have a family history, should they change their lifestyle in certain ways? What should
Mhm.
they be altering? And for Kira, she's going to pass this along to her children, knowing that their father passed away from pancreatic cancer. All of you that are listening, again, this is your opportunity. Keep those questions coming in. Great questions, by the way. Dr. Gregg Fox, Kira Anderson, our guest today on this Medical Monday. Don't go anywhere.
I was just on the Real Monica Adams show, and it was really a good experience for me. When I walked in, the building is just peaceful. The environment is beautiful here. Monica really made me feel welcome.
The Monica Adams Show allows people to be themselves. It's really important to share kindness, to be real, to offer stories and things that will give people hope and a reason to smile.
Rather than waking up aggravated, disappointed, and wondering, where's this earth going, choose to wake up with something that'll put your mind and your heart in the right direction. Start with Monica.
And welcome back to the Real Monica Adams Show. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Medical Monday. And when there's stories like this that are breakthroughs, we want to get them to you right away. For a long time, the likelihood of surviving pancreatic cancer has been extremely low. That's why this is such a big deal that we're talking about today. For patients who were diagnosed, by the way, with metastatic pancreatic cancer between 2015 and 2021, about 97% died within 5 years of their diagnosis. Now, you understand when we're talking talking about doubling survival rates, why this is so impactful. Pancreatic cancer is so deadly in part because there are no effective screening tests, and it rarely causes noticeable symptoms, as we were talking about. You have some great comments and great questions that are coming in this morning. Jeff earlier had said, if you're just tuning in, that he had just started on this drug about 3 weeks in. Jeff just said, I'm eating very clean right now, Dr. Fox. No sugar, no junk food. I'm basically keto diet. I really like to put some weight back on. Do you have any recommendations on how I can gain weight while still eating healthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would say that this is a topic that comes up very frequently in clinic, and is obviously something that's really on the minds of patients, kind of irrespective of what treatment they're on. Um, I would say, it sounds like you have a diet that's working for you right now. And in general, my recommendation for patients, especially if they're interested in gaining weight, is really eating what is easiest for them to eat. Even with medications like Daraxonrasib, which in general appear to be more well tolerated than chemotherapy, eating and desire to eat can still be a challenge. So I think a lot of it comes down to really capitalizing on when you feel a craving for something, or when you do feel moved to eat, to kind of allow yourself to follow that craving, and go through with it. I think in addition to that, something that our nutritionist colleagues tend to really emphasize, and I agree with, is especially for folks where it can be cumbersome to get all of your calories through a lot of bulky solids, especially if you feel, if whether due to the cancer itself, or just due to fatigue, early satiety or getting full early can be an issue. High protein, kind of nutritive shakes like Boost or Thrive, or things in that general family, can be a really nice supplement to a lot of the positive dietary changes that you're already mentioning.
And then Dr. Fox, he also said, I have the KRAS mutation, also have the BRCA gene. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old. This goes into the comment I made going into the break. When should I get them checked? I'm sure Kira wants to know the same.
Hmm. So, in general, I would for especially in your case, Jeff, where you have, so the KRAS mutation. I think it's important to discriminate kind of between those two. So the KRAS mutation itself, it's overwhelmingly likely that that was based on testing of your tumor tissue. So that's what we call a somatic mutation, or a mutation that happens sporadically, kind of not in the cells that you passed on to your children. So the KRAS mutation is kind of exclusive to the tumor, and is not something that they need to worry about as kind of a predisposing risk factor for any sort of cancer. The BRCA gene mutation, I would, again, having not seen your medical records, but I'm assuming that that's what we would call a germline mutation. So that, in contrast, is going to be a mutation that's in all or most of your cells, and so is definitely, you're definitely at risk for passing those on to your children. I would say that the guidelines for when to have your children
Tested?
tested for those sorts of germline mutations actually change relatively frequently as we get new information. I always recommend, if you haven't, to see a genetic counselor, to discuss appropriate screening, because those are going to be the folks who are most up to date on those guidelines. I think it's always appropriate to have a discussion with a genetic counselor whenever you get any sort of positive germline genetic testing.
So once again, Dr. Gregg Fox joining us on this medical Monday. If you were interested in just tuning in, she lost her husband to pancreatic cancer. So knowing this, Kira, and hearing Dr. Fox say this, does it concern you? Are you fearful at all for your children?
I am, and it makes my stomach turn. I am, but one thing is I have hope.
Yes.
There are really promising things happening in labs right now. truly here in St. Louis at Siteman with Dr. Lim and Dr. Fox. So I do have hope by the time they're older that there will be better options. And I'm pretty sure Kyle did not have a BRCA mutation. But I need to go back and look, and we'll absolutely have my children tested, at an appropriate time. But I don't have fear. I'm not fearful, I shouldn't say, but it does make my stomach upset a little bit. And you know, there's so many things to worry about, and we can, control, we can control. And so I'm just trying to, have them, show them how to lead a healthy and happy life. Because, tomorrow's not promised for any of us, and things can happen, you know, randomly. And cancer is on the rise, especially GI cancers. And so, really, we're all at risk.
It is, but it's a lot of it, Kira and Dr. Fox, and all of you that are watching. I asked going into the break about how we, one, appreciate the life that we have, and then start having the realization of it's around us. We're seeing it younger and younger. What is it? Is it in our food? Is it in our environment? Do we change the way we are living our life? More processed food that you're all eating, and you think you have endless days. Oh, I can do whatever I want to do. So someone, Dr. Fox, that has someone within their family that had pancreatic cancer or has right now and is saying, okay, whoa, I think I need to adjust some things. What would be the biggest changes they should make?
Yeah, that's a good question. And as is so often with kind of this side of the spectrum of cancer, our the quality of like direct trial evidence that we have is much poorer than we have on the other side, where we're treating, actively treating patients with disease. So I think any recommendations that I give are going to be necessarily provisional. But I think what I often tell patients is that positive lifestyle changes that you would otherwise think about making, kind of independent of a risk of pancreatic cancer, are in almost all circumstances likely to actively impact your risk of developing cancer later in life in a positive way. So things like, maintaining a healthy exercise regimen, making dietary changes like reducing the amount of added sugar, increasing the amount of kind of less or unprocessed foods with a focus on healthy vegetables and plants, minimizing or at least reducing like very processed or red meats in general, appears to be associated with a decreased risk of especially some of these GI cancers that are on the rise, as you said. So I think in general, kind of the sort of common sense lifestyle changes that I think a lot of us are interested in making or adhering to better, thankfully also seem to be kind of in the aggregate associated with an improvement in risk of cancer down the line too. So it ends up being, I think, more intuitive than people might expect. That doesn't make it easier to kind of change holistically in the long term, but it certainly kind of gives a clear path for people.
And I'm so glad you just said that, by the way. We've come a long, long way to people decades ago. I remember when I first started in this business, and medical was one of the very first things that I covered, and it just became my lifelong passion in news to do these medical features on the weekends. And I have talked to some of those same physicians all these years later, and I've said, look how far we've come from the blend of traditional medicine to functional medicine, and how more and more physicians now are saying, yeah, I am in my practice saying, I recommend that you do this. I recommend that you do that. Where in the past, they used to say, when the mics are off, I'm going to tell you things, but I wish I could say it on air. And I'm like, one day we will be able to do that. And I love the fact that you all are. I mean, literally saying holistic and homeopathic and functional and traditional and how it all works, right? Kira's shaking her head, how it all works hand in hand. It's upon us and them together. It works hand in hand. There's a beautiful marriage between functional and traditional medicine. It's not one or the other. It's the blend of it. Jeff has a question for Kira. Do you have any resources you'd recommend for my wife and family as they navigate this diagnosis with me? I want to make sure they have support as well.
Yes, absolutely. For one, I would love to be in contact with his wife. Depending on where he lives, if he lives here in St. Louis, we have an organization called Annie's Hope that was amazing. They came and worked with my children while Kyle was sick, helping them understand his disease, his diagnosis, the prognosis. And then they also worked with them after Kyle was diagnosed. We also have the Cancer Community Center, something along those lines. We do have resources here in St. Louis, and I can also help people get in touch with resources where they live. But yes, the answer is yes, there are resources, and I can definitely help connect them.
Absolutely. And I will say, after losing my father, my mom has forever said what you can't go at it alone, because you have to take care of yourself as well. And that's something that Kira understands all too well. She, her kids, you're going through it together. For my mom, it was the Peregrine Society. She raves about the Peregrine Society and what they did. So yes, please understand, Jeff and all of you, don't let them not take care of themselves as well. Stephanie, you're welcome. Jenny said Siteman was phenomenal with my sister-in-law. We had her at SLU, and I set up a consult at WashU. It helped me know that she got all the care needed that was available. Absolutely. So one last question before we have to wrap up. Dr. Fox, so people are hearing about Daraxonrasib. They're hearing about all of this. They're consuming all of it. This is one of those shows I highly recommend that you go back, you watch, you share this. Again, an oral targeted therapy that essentially doubles overall survival in patients with previously treated metastatic pancreatic cancer compared to standard chemotherapy. So the question is, who is eligible? So currently, both the trial and the expanded access program, I'm being told, strictly for patients who meet certain criteria. So they have to be stage 4, is that correct?
That's correct. So in general, this is for patients with stage 4 disease that have received at least one line of treatment prior to consideration of Daraxonrasib. Importantly, as I kind of alluded to earlier, there are some active follow-up trials of Daraxonrasib where they're testing it either alone or in combination with standard of care chemotherapy in patients who haven't received any treatment at all. So those trials are actively ongoing, and at least so far as I've heard, the early results of those trials have also looked quite promising. So it could be that, in as little as a year to a year and a half from now, you might be seeing another press release that this has moved into the first line setting. So again, as I mentioned, this is a very we've gone from absolutely no KRAS targeted therapy to this being a very quickly moving space where we'll probably see kind of a bit of a domino effect of announcements of positive trial results over the next couple of years, I would imagine.
And then prior treatment as well, the cancer must have progressed after receiving
That,
at least one prior round of standard chemo.
that's correct. Now, what I will say is that is what highly likely what the FDA approval will look like on the basis of this trial that was conducted and is completed.
Okay.
In practice, it would not surprise me at all if oncologists work to get this medication approved in the first line, no previous treatment setting for patients in whom they are concerned about chemotherapy tolerance, um, uh, where they otherwise wouldn't have any other options. I imagine that will definitely be the case. So it is not unlikely that oncologists will be able to get this medication in certain circumstances through more of a kind of compassionate use or kind of a dialogue with insurance companies available for certain patients who wouldn't otherwise be eligible for treatment in the first line setting. So again, this is just kind of the first breakthrough, but already I think we're going to start seeing it kind of trickle up as we wait for the trial results in the first line setting.
So if
In my
someone is just hearing this today, are they asking, hey, I just heard this on the show, I want to know about this, or is there a particular trial that they should be saying to their physician if they're being treated in St. Louis right now? What's the immediate next step for this?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that they should, certainly anyone actively receiving treatment for pancreatic cancer should have a dialogue with their oncologist, just to kind of make sure that everyone's on the same page about what's appropriate. I think the watchword, from my perspective, is if you're currently on a treatment that's working and that you're tolerating, it's much better to stay on that treatment. The Daraxonrasib is available to you after that. So the name of the game in treatment of pancreatic cancer is time. So the more time that we can spend at the same line of therapy is absolutely to the good. By the same token, if you're someone who is kind of just barely soldiering through a treatment that you ultimately are not tolerating well, the advent of this medication might be a good opportunity to have a discussion with your oncologist about, do you think it's time for us to like that this has been difficult enough? Do you think we could maybe move on? So I think that we'll see a lot of those kinds of shared decision making conversations as this drug becomes more and more available for folks.
And again, this is all very new. This is breakthrough. This is being used now, folks. I think one question we didn't ask, because when people are diagnosed and then they're going through rounds of treatment, how long are they on this?
The Daraxonrasib.
Yes.
So, I mean, in the stage 4 setting, the in general, treatment at any individual line is indefinite until the disease progresses. So that kind of even though we still kind of artificially use the notion of cycles even in these oral pills, in general, it's not thought of quite. That's more kind of an artificial structure of just the way that we think about how the medication is dosed. In general, it's just a daily pill that people will take, and kind of be monitored routinely on a monthly basis, and with interval scans to see how the disease is doing.
Yeah. I mean, again, Kira, you're just looking at all of this going, oh my gosh, an oral pill as opposed to my husband being hooked up to an IV. I mean, there's so many levels of this. We could go on for hours, folks. I want, and again, we're just touching on this. I'm sure we'll revisit this, and I would like to. We'll stay in touch with Dr. Fox and Kira. I do want to put this back on the screen because I know a lot of you're tuning in every second. I want to put the QR code because Kira is a huge advocate for raising funds for this type of research. So you can scan that. We're going to leave it up for just a bit. Scan that to donate, or again, come back to this, pause on it. Make sure that you have that QR code. Again, over 200,000 already raised. Kira said there's 50,000 that is coming in, and this is a goal of $1 million after $2 million has already been raised. So, Kira, first of all, thank you for connecting me with Dr. Fox and Dr. Lim and all of the incredible work that they're doing. What last comment would you like to leave as a message of hope to our audience?
Yes, thank you so much for that opportunity. It is vitally important that we fund pancreatic cancer research, and here's why. The prognosis is not good. It's one of the most deadly cancers. Funding is critical, and it is not funded as it should be. So GI cancers are on the rise. If this drug in particular had been funded sooner, it would be into patients sooner. If my husband could have had a 1-pill regimen versus the amount of chemo that he received, all the pain medications, the shots, I mean, I could go on and on, like you said, Monica, but the government is the number one funder of cancer research, and we thank them for what they give us, but it's less than 1% of their budget. The NIH, National Institute of Health, is the one that distributes the money. And Dr. Fox, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's less than 8% of their budget that goes to cancer research. So it is vital that we privately fund promising cancer research, labs like Dr. Lim's, to bring these treatments into patients sooner. If Kyle's treatment that we got compassionate use for had been funded when it initially was brought to the FDA, I believe very, very strongly that my husband would still be here, and so would many, many other patients, because that treatment worked and is working. And because we've been able to raise money and awareness for this type of treatment, it is in 30 to 40 patients as we speak, pancreatic cancer, stomach cancer, and they just started putting it in colorectal cancer patients. it's working. It's eradicating the cancer in stage 4 patients. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It's also stabilizing their cancer and shrinking in other cases. And there's only a few non-responders. Again, if this treatment had been funded initially, there would be a lot of humans still alive. Because of this type of treatment. So it is vitally important. So if everyone can give a little bit, every single dollar counts. There is no amount too small or too large for this type of treatment. It is, and if it's not pancreatic cancer, pick a cancer. Something that has affected your family, because 1 in 2 people in their lifetime will be personally affected by cancer. It is what it is. And so we really, truly can move mountains if we move them together. If we all, connect and donate to our cancer of choice, we can move mountains.
Absolutely. And this is what this show is about, that message of hope and what a community can do together. Again, we are better together than standing as one. And so you see and hear these type of breakthroughs. Again, to me, folks, this is thrilling. And then you realize what it can do for other cancers. We used to walk the halls of St. Jude, Dr. Fox, when I was in radio, and we would do a radiothon. And people used to always ask the question, why are you trying to raise money for a hospital in Memphis? It's because of the work that they're doing there that then helps all around the world. And then finally, when people got that, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. But you have to understand what we have right here in St. Louis. We have to be so proud. WashU, SLU, Barnes, Siteman. I mean, again, we are blessed because we have others all around the country watching the work that's being done right here and being done by this gentleman. Dr. Fox, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And let's keep in touch, because I would love to see, after just talking about this just breaking, that we revisit this 6 months, 12 months from now, and then we do a story on a patient. And just like Jeff is saying, Jeff just started just a few weeks ago, so maybe we follow Jeff's journey. Kira, thank you. And I know that you're going to hit that million. I know I have a very giving audience. So please, folks, join me in my donation that I'll be doing as soon as I wrap up here, because we need to help fund this research. Both of you, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Jenny said, wow, Kira, agree. Funding is key. I'm sorry for your loss. Absolutely. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will do our devotional. Jeff said, thank you. I will be back. Thank you very much, Jeff. We will be right back. We'll tell you what's on tap tomorrow in a Testament Tuesday. And again, folks, anything that you would like to see on this show, on Medical Mondays, Testament Tuesdays, our Wellness Wednesday, fitness related, shoot me a message at info@therealmonicaadams.com. That message of hope through divine inspirations. That's how we wrap up the show next.
Don't miss the hot tub and swim spa blowout sale this weekend at the St. Charles Convention Center. Over 25 American-made units on display. Immediate delivery and financing available. For more info, call 1-800-SPA-SALE.
Welcome back again in our final moments. I just want to do a recap for some of you that are just tuning in. Again, the most promising new pill for pancreatic cancer, Daraxonrasib, an oral targeted therapy that essentially is doubling survival in patients with previously treated metastatic pancreatic cancer compared to standard chemotherapy. And anytime that you have a loved one or you have gone through it and you have said, oh, I don't want to go through chemo, I get it. This is why this is so incredible. Again, over 90% of pancreatic cancer is driven by the KRAS gene mutation. It acts like a traffic signal, they say, permanently stuck on green. So this Daraxonrasib blocks the signal, effectively stopping the cancer cells from dividing. This is incredible breakthrough, and again, a message of hope today. So we love to wrap things up with a devotional, and sometimes it's from Jesus Calling, sometimes it's from the 100 Days to Freedom books that we do on set with Stephen Arterburn, and sometimes it's as simple as pulling a card from Divine Inspirations from our friend Marietta Divine. These are affirmation cards, and this is the one that rose to the top today. I let go. In this moment, I let go. Release one worry. Trust that life will hold it for you. Ooh, can you let go? I love my favorite phrase is let go and let God, right? if you have lost hope. And for some of you, I know you've reached out to me privately and said, Monica, with everything you went through medically, losing your father also, and the car accident that changed things for you a handful of years ago, how do you keep your faith? And I say, without him, what a lonely and very fearful world it would be. That's my belief. But again, I never push faith on anyone. It's me. This is something that I feel, and it's the hope that I provide to you. And again, if you feel lost, maybe you return. Maybe whatever your upbringing was, maybe you find a new community that's waiting there for you. So tomorrow on A Testament Tuesday, Abraham Whitehead, who is the husband to Dr. Jessica from Fenton Family Dentistry, he wanted to be a part of A Testament Tuesday of what he's watched his father go through for 4 decades. And I'm not going to steal the story. He's going to tell you what he went through, his life awakening, and his message. In fact, he has written 5 books. I have book 2 that I've been reading, and we'll let you know how to get those books. But they're fiction, but they're based on the faith that maybe you grew up with that has a little bit of a different road. So we'll talk about that tomorrow on A Testament Tuesday. And then, of course, Trisha Rhodes is back with us from Exist Stretch on our Wellness Wednesday. We've got great shows on tap for you, but I'd love to maybe tell your story. If you think you have a story that belongs on this show, again, shoot me a message at info@therealmonicaadams.com. Everybody, thank you so much. Enjoy the day. Again, be weather aware. As Becca told you at the very beginning, we're talking about really high heat indices that are dangerously high. So take care of you, get those animals inside, and check on the elderly. Again, as a community, we can take care of one another. And what's the greatest thing we can do in this community? You know the words. Be kind. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow.
The Real Monica Adams